morning, children, and welcome back. This is class 7th, subject Social Science, chapter number 4 of History, the Mughal Empire. As we have already discussed about the different topics given in this chapter in 3 lectures. Today, this is our lecture number 4. Basically, today we are going to summarize all the topics covered in 3 lectures. So it is our summary lecture. Listen very carefully so that if anything is left to understand, you can understand here in this lecture. So the topics that we have covered in this chapter are that we will discuss again: Mughal emperors, types of succession, Mansabdars and Jagirs, Jamindars, Akbarnama and Ain-e-Akbari, Akbar's administration policies, Ibadat Khana, Mughal Empire in 17th century. So, as we have already covered all these topics so far in 3 lectures, today we will recapitulate all these topics. So let's start with the topics. Mughals. Who were these Mughals basically? We must know that who were Mughals. They were from 2 big families. From their mother's side, they were descendant of Genghis Khan. Means the mother was there from Genghis Khan's family. The Mongol ruler who ruled over the parts of China and Central Asia. About Genghis Khan, we have already covered there in chapter number 3 also, that he attacked many times there at the time of Delhi Sultanate. And from their father's side, they were the successor of Timur, who ruled on Iran, Iraq and Turkey. Basically, these Mughals, they did not want to be called as Mongols. The reason behind it? Because Genghis Khan's name was associated with different Messers, and in those Messers many people were killed. So they did not want to be called as Mongols. So these were the 2 families or 2 ruling families from where the Mughals they came, or you can say they had relation with these 2 rulers, the ruler families. Now, let's move further. Mughal emperors. First is Babur from 1526 to 1530. Humayun from 1530 to 1540, and then he was defeated by Sher Khan. Again he recaptured Delhi in 1555 to 1556. As in 1556 he was dead. Then Akbar. 1556 to 1605. Jahangir 1605 to 1627. Shahjahan 1627 to 1658. Aurangzeb 1658 to 1707. So these were the emperors there in Mughal Empire. After Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire, in the last years of 17th century, the Mughal Empire that started decline. So this we can say the timeline of Mughal Empire, or the different emperors there in Mughal Empire with their time period. Now we will discuss about all these emperors. Babur. From 1526 to 1530, he succeeded to the throne at the age of 12 only. He became king at the age of 12. Uzbeks invaded Fergan. He was king of Fergan earlier. Uzbeks invaded Fergan and he was forced to leave it. Means where he was king there in Fergan, it was defeated by Uzbeks and he was forced to leave that place. In 1526, he defeated Abraham Lodi at Panipat and recaptured Delhi and Agra and established Mughal Empire there in India. So this was the date when Mughal Empire established there in Delhi, 1526, and the battle that was fought between Abraham Lodi and Babur at Panipat. This is also known as the First Battle of Panipat. Now let's discuss some more victories. In 1527, he defeated Rana Sanga at Khanwa. This is known as Battle of Khanwa. Then in 1528, he defeated the Rajputs at Chanderi, and this is all known as Battle of Chanderi that was fought in 1528 and in which Babur defeated Rajputs. So these are some of the victories at the time of Babur. Or this was the timeline of different victories done by Babur. Then after Babur, his successor or his son Humayun got the throne. In 1530, Humayun divided his inheritance according to his father's will. The estate of Babur or the kingdom of Babur, it was divided by Humayun according to his father's wish. Each brother was given a province. The different parts were given to different brothers of Humayun. Sher Khan defeated Humayun at Chausa in 1539 and later Kannauj in 1540. Sher Shah Suri defeated Humayun in Chausa in 1539 and in Kannauj in 1540. And then Humayun ran from Delhi to Iran. But after some time, the time period of 15 years, he again came and recaptured Delhi in 1555. But unfortunately, in the very next year, in 1556, he was dead due to an accident. So this is all about Humayun. Now, Humayun's successor, before Humayun's successor, we will talk about the type of succession. There were two types of succession or inheritance, you can say. First was primogeniture and second was corpuscendry. Primogeniture, in which the eldest son of any king inherited the father's estate or got the throne. But in second one, all the sons, they were getting the different estate, the estate of the father equally. These Mughals, they had adopted the second one, corpuscendry, in which the estate was divided among all the sons. Now, Mughal tradition of succession, as we talked that they adopted the second one, primogeniture. In this succession, the eldest son inherited his father's estate. Means the complete kingdom or whatever the wealth or estate was there, it was given to the eldest son. But in the second one, corpus Sindri, in this succession or inheritance, division of estate was done amongst all the sons. And as we talked that, Mughals adopted the second one. Now, the third ruler or third emperor of Mughal Empire was Akbar, and he is known as Akbar the Great. Do you know in Indian history, the three rulers are there. Those are called as the Akbar the Great, Alexander the Great, Ashoka the Great. So, the Great is used before Akbar. Akbar's time period, that is from 1556 to 1605, very long time period, and he expanded Mughal Empire in his period. So his victories or the military campaigns, they are divided into three parts that we are going to discuss now. Akbar became emperor at the age of 13 years only, after the death of his father Humayun. He worked under the guidance of his regent Bairam Khan. Regent means Sanrakshak. As he was just 13 years old, so Bairam Khan held all the responsibilities. And in guidance of Bairam Khan, he expanded Mughal Empire a lot. So, after some time, he made himself independent from all the domestic military officers and Bairam Khan. Then we will talk about that Akbar's reign that can be divided into three parts. This is very important question even. That if the question is there, explain the Akbar's victories or military campaigns, then you write this, and the Akbar's reign it is given that you explain the three parts of Akbar reign, then also you will write the same. The first one, 1556 to 1570, he launched military campaigns against the Suris and other Afghans. As we talked, the Suris there, Humayun was defeated by Sher Suri. So he launched military campaigns against the Suris and other Afghans. Chittor and Ranthambore were seized in 1568 and 1569 respectively. So the first part of his reign, in which he launched campaign against Suris and Afghans. Then he seized means Chirna, Chittor and Ranthambore in 1568 and 1569. 1570 to 1585. The victories or the military campaigns done by Akbar were, he started the military campaigns in Bihar, Bengal and Orissa. There in eastern part of India also he started his military campaigns. Then in third part of his reign, from 1585 to 1605, campaigns were launched in the northwest part like Kandahar, Kashmir, Kabul, and also expanded his empire in Deccan part of India also. So almost all the parts of Indian continent he covered. He expanded his Mughal empire during his time period. Later on we will be discussing about administration of Akbar and different other things also. Now you can see the map. They are in yellow color. If you see, all these parts were under the control of Akbar, under the control of Mughal Empire during the time period of Akbar. And then if you see in brown color, at the time of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, they expanded there in the southern part. So it is showing the expansion of Mughal Empire at the time of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, that we will discuss later. So you can see that the almost complete Indian subcontinent was covered by Mughal emperors. Now Jahangir. From 1605 to 1627, the time period of Jahangir. Jahangir was successor of Akbar. He also continued the military campaigns, those were started by Akbar. But in the last years of his time period, Prince Khurram, who is popularly known as Shah Jahan and successor of Jahangir, his son also rebelled in last years of his father's time period. Mehrunisa married to Emperor Jahangir in 1611 and got the title of Noor Jahan. Mehrunisa got the title of Noor Jahan when she married with Jahangir in 1611. So she got the title in 1611. She was loyal to the emperor. So what the emperor did? Jahangir struck silver coins bearing his name on one side, as she was loyal to the emperor. And what emperor did? He had the coins bearing her name on the place of his hair. Her will come, her name on one side. So this is all about Jahangir and Mehrunisa or Noor Jahan. Now after Jahangir, his successor Shah Jahan, and after Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. Shah Jahan from 1627 to 1658. During the time period of Shah Jahan, Bundels were defeated. Then in 1658, there was conflict over succession amongst his son. Shah Jahan had four sons. So there was conflicts amongst all those four. And in all those four sons, Aurangzeb was victorious. So he defeated all three brothers and even he killed one of his brother, Dara Shikoh, and got the throne of the Mughals. So Aurangzeb's time period is 1658 to 1707. He started campaign against Shivaji. Actually, he expanded Mughal Empire there in southern part, in Deccan part, and he faced the Marathas there. Marathas in Deccan part, they were very much expert in guerrilla warfare. The guerrilla warfare is one of the technique that was used in the wars by Marathas. So he started campaign against Shivaji. It was initially successful. Basically, Shivaji did not accept the Mughals' authority in starting. But when he was defeated by them, then after some time he escaped from Delhi. But when he came to Aurangzeb, Aurangzeb insulted Shivaji. This was the story behind Shivaji and Aurangzeb. So the military campaigns he did there in the Deccan part, and during that period of time, different other problems were also there that we will discuss later on in the last time of the 17th century. Now, central provinces of Mughals: Delhi, Agra, Mathura, Amber, Ajmer, Fatehpur Sikri, Chittor, Ranthambore. These were the central provinces of Mughals. Mughals' relation with others. Basically here, especially with Rajputs. What type of relations Mughals were having? Many rulers joined Mughals as they became very powerful during that time period. So many of the rulers, they themselves joined Mughals. They accepted Mughals' authority. But some of the Rajputs, they did not accept in starting, like we can take example of Sisodia Rajputs of Mewar. Some of the Rajputs even married their daughters into Mughal families. The reason behind it? They got the high position as Mughals were very powerful at that time. So they married their daughters in Mughal families. As some examples are there, Jahangir's mother was Kachwaha princess of Mewar. Jahangir's mother, she was Kachwaha princess of Mewar. Shah Jahan's mother was Rathod princess of Marwar. So these are some examples in which it is showing that the Rajputs married their daughters, they are in Mughal families. Some exceptional cases, those did not accept Mughals' authority in starting, like Sisodia Rajputs of Mewar. They did not accept Mughal authorities, but later on when they were defeated by them, finally they accepted, and even the Mughals, they had taken their land that was known as Watan. Watan. They gave that Watan back to Sisodias after victory won. So this is all about the relations of Mughals with other rulers. Now, the next topic is Mansabdars and Jagirdars or the Jagirs. Iranians, Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas, etc. They joined Mughal services as they were influenced by the power of Mughals. So they joined Mughal services. They were known as Mansabdars. These people were known as Mansabdars. The term Mansabdars refers to an individual. This term Mansabdar basically refers to an individual who holds a mansab, meaning a position or a rank. Means Mansabdars were the people who hold mansab, and its meaning is position or a rank. And this position or rank, it was given according to the grading system by the Mughals. They fixed ranks, salaries, military responsibilities according to the grading system. Now, the rank and salaries were determined by numerical value. The rank or salaries, whatever they were giving to Mansabdars, they were determined by numerical value called Z, Z80. Remember this, the salary and rank that was determined by numerical value, that numerical value was known as Z, Z80. So these Mansabdars, according to their position, according to their rank, they received their salaries as revenue assignment, which was called Jagir. Now what was Jagir? Jagir was the assignment that these mansabdars were getting as their salaries. And if you remember that in previous chapter we have done about muktis, iktas, though the land, though people, military officers were getting from rulers, and they were known as muktis then. But here what is the difference? They did not administer their jagir. They only had right to the revenue, RIGST, right to the revenue, their assignment. Its meaning is they were not living inside that particular jagir. They were having some other responsibilities on other places. For collecting revenues, they were having the servants. Now, this is all about mansabdars, jagir and jet. Now, jamindars. These jamindars were powerful local chieftains appointed by the Mughal rulers. These were the powerful local chieftains, those were appointed by Mughal rulers. They were the people having power in the local areas and they were living there in palaces. They collected taxes from peasants. So they were playing role of mediator between ruler and peasants as they were collecting taxes from them. This is about jamindars. The next topic is Todarmal's revenue system. If you remember, we talked in the previous lecture, Todarmal was revenue officer of Akbar and one of the 9 jewels of Akbar. He made one revenue system there at the time of Akbar. What he did, he collected data of the crops and the areas, crop area, prices, all these data he collected for 10 years of time period from 1570 to 1580. On the basis of that data, the tax was fixed in that particular area and each province was divided into revenue circle with its own schedule of revenue rates. Means in different circles different revenue rate was given according to the datas. This revenue system was known as Zapt. The revenue system that was created by revenue officer of Akbar was known as Zapt. The next topic is Akbarnama and Aine Akbari. Now basically we will talk about the Akbar's administration and different events there at the time of Akbar's time period. Abul Fazl, one of the courtier there in Akbar's court. If you remember, I told you that there were 9 jewels or Navratan in Akbar's court. Those were very much faithful people in which Todarmal, Abul Fazl, Tansen, Birbal, they were included. Abul Fazl wrote a book named Akbarnama. The book had 3 volumes. And what had he written there in these 3 volumes? The first volume, it is about Akbar's ancestors only. Akbar's ancestors means Akbar ke purvas like Babur, Humayun. Second volume, it recorded the events of Akbar's reign. At the time, during the time period of Akbar, different events those were held. It was recorded there in second volume. Third volume, it is Aine Akbari. The third part, it is Aine Akbari that tells about Akbar's administration, army, revenue. It also gives us cultural details, statistics on crops, prices and yield. As we talked about the Todarmal's the data collection about the crops, prices and yield. Yield means production. So this is all about Akbarnama, written by Abul Fazl and Aine Akbari, the third volume of this Akbarnama. Now Akbar's administration policies. Akbar's administration was discussed by Abul Fazl in his book Akbarnama, and their different positions were discussed, like empire was divided into provinces known as subas. Then subas were governed by subedars. The provinces or states, they were known as subas and they were governed by governor, those were known as subedars. Then subedars were supported by military paymasters. These military paymasters were known as Baksi. This is all about the military and political functions done by subedars. Next is provinces had financial officer also, that was known as Diwan. That was all related to the tax collection or different financial functions. Minister of religious and charitable patronage was known as Sadar. Then related to the religious purposes, religious minister Sadar was there. Military commander were known as Fauzdar and town police commander were known as Kotwals. So these were different posts that were there in Akbar's administration and were discussed there in Aine Akbari also. They are in the Akbarnama. Then Ibadat Khana, very important place, the place where different discussions were held by Akbar with different religious people. That place was known as Akbarnama. Now, Akbar had discussions with different people of different religion like ulema, Brahmin, Jesuit, Roman Catholics, in order to get different views from different religions. Those discussions were held in Ibadat Khana. These discussions were held in Ibadat Khana. Now, and after the discussion, he got that the different religious scholars of different faiths, they helped him to know about dogmas and bigots which created disharmony and divisions among his subjects, means among the people. That was understood by Akbar, that these created disharmony and division, means discrimination there in the people. So this led Akbar to the idea of Sulh-e-Kul, means universal peace, in which no discrimination was there in the different religions. Even he created one religion known as Deen-e-Ilahi, in which he had taken the key parts of different religions. So this was all about Ibadat Khana and about Sulh-e-Kul, that was really important to maintain peace, justice in that area at that time. Next is Mughals in 17th century, the very important part. Basically in 17th century, the Mughals, they started decline in the last time of 17th century. The reason behind it, that the main reason that was observed, it was the economic imbalance or the economics differences that were found. What were they? The Mughal Empire exercised a great deal of influence and power in 16th century and starting of 17th century also. But by the end of the 17th century, the authority of Mughal Empire declined. What the reason was there? As I told you, the economic differences. As we talked that Mansabdars were having Jagirs at the time of Aurangzeb, that the number of those Mansabdars, it was increased and Jagirs were the same. So what they started taking more revenues from the peasants. So the condition of peasants that became powerful, and it created the economic differences. Means the poorer became more poorer, the poor became more poorer, and the people, some of the people, those were already rich, they were becoming richer. That was the main reason. Then at the time of Aurangzeb, he started expansion there in Deccan part, that was done by Shah Jahan as well as Aurangzeb, and he fought different battles with Marathas, and he insulted Shivaji also due to that also. So when the economic differences created there, this gave rise to many independent provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. As the power of those Mughals they started decline, so the new independent provinces they came up. They were Hyderabad, Awadh. They became independent. So this is all about the Mughals in 17th century. Now, I hope that all the topics we covered in the chapter you have understood, and please read the chapter there at home also, so that you can see, you can have the revision of the chapter again. Now, today's homework assignment. Question number 1. Answer the following questions. A. Divide Akbar's reign into 3 periods and give details about them. Or mention the major campaigns and events of Akbar's reign. Question B. Who was victorious in the conflicts over succession amongst the Shah Jahan's sons? C. What was the role of Jamindar in Mughal administration? Who was Babur? How did Babur become the ruler of Delhi? What was Jagir? When did Meru Nisa receive the title of Noor Jahan? Who was the regent of Akbar? What age did Akbar become the emperor of the Mughal Empire? Who was the author of Akbarnama and Ain-e-Akbari? Give an account of Todarmal's revenue system, how the circles were made and the taxes were fixed there. At what age did Akbar become the emperor of the Mughal Empire? I think it is repeated. So leave it. This assignment you will attempt there in your fair register. If any question you face problem, that you can write in fair, and then after receiving the answers or the solution of this assignment, you will correct the answers. You will get the solution of this assignment. Then one more assignment you will be getting from the same chapter. Then there will be the test on 15th. Now, let's discuss about the homework solution of lecture 3. Question 1 was write a short note on Akbar's administration. Akbar's administration empire was divided into provinces known as Subas. Subas were governed by Subedars. Subedars were supported by military paymasters were known as Baksis. Provinces had financial officers known as Diwan. Ministry of Religious and Charitable Patronage was known as Sadar. Military commanders were Faujdars. Town police commander was known as Kotwal. So this was the administration at the time of Akbar. Second question was, How were the debates with religious scholars important in the formation of Akbar's idea of governance? What idea Akbar got from those scholars? Akbar's debates with scholars of different faiths helped him to know about dogma and bigots, which created disharmony and division in his subjects or in his people. He started Sulhul or universal peace. This focused on honesty, justice, and peace. Sulhul focused on honesty, justice, and peace. With whom did Akbar hold discussions on religion? Akbar held discussions with different people of different religions like ulema, Brahmin, Jesuit, Roman Catholics. I hope that you have understood the chapter. Then again please read the chapter and all the questions also. Thank you and have a nice day.